Welcome to the channel where all you gotta do is make some strut tower filler plates. So I deleted the strut towers on this because it's completely different suspension and motor wouldn't fit with them because it's wider than a 289. I got the hinges kind of in place and striker plates and the lifter and stuff all kind of, I know where it's going to go now. So I have to weld all that in, which is non-trivial. But before I do that, I'm gonna make the inner fender filler plates. So this is the pattern I had for the inner fender plates where the strut towers used to be. So I'm gonna make one for each side. They're just mirror images of each other. So I went down to the shed where the dyno lives and I grabbed a piece of metal. Okay, so I got these guys out yesterday and I'm just cleaning all the surface rust here and there off of them with my surfacer thingy. And now I'm going to take it to the bandsaw, and because if you use this guy to cut it, it leaves like a little kind of a curl on the edge. Makes it a little bit, you got to do a bunch of hammer and dolly work. So if I just avoid that and cut it on the bandsaw, that fixes that problem. I still have to deburr it, but that's not that big of a deal. And then I have to bend it. So the issue is, I don't know if there's an issue or not, but let me get to it. But I need a bigger radius than my press brake will put on there. So I have a little trick around that. Stick around and we'll show you how. Okay, so this is the bend I get from my press brake. I don't know what it looks like about. I mean, the radius depends on the thickness of the material, right? Because it tries to make the center kind of to a point. So anyway, that ends up being maybe 3/16 radius. Well, half of that, 3/32 radius on the outside. So I just bent this up as a test, and this is 045 wall. And then I use this on top of the top die, and I bent this. So you can see those radiuses just add up. So this one's a little bit bigger. So you can see the inside of that radius is the same as the outside of that radius. So every time you do it, it's an extra 45 thousandths radius. Or whatever material you use. You could use 60 thou or, you know, bending anything more than that on that cheesy press is probably challenging, but, and you could stack this twice too, right? You could, you know, bend one and then bend the other one and spot weld it together and then, you know. So basically what I'm going to do is get a piece of this stuff that's longer, you know, like maybe 12 inches long. 12 inches is like that, so it'll overlap a little bit. I'll bend one of these guys and then I'll tape that on the ends and then use that to bend that. And then let me show you why I'm doing that. It's again typical of me. I'm lazy. See, this radius here is fairly big. So I want to match that radius like that. Okay, so I got that thing cut out and I put some places where I might bead roll it just to make that thing stiff. Tried to do my artsy fartsy thing, but I don't know if it worked out. If you can see those. put the first roll in this guy. Doesn't look terrible, but it doesn't look great either. And don't use your body hammers for this. Use a ball peen, because they don't need to be smooth on the end. So knacker hitting all kinds of stuff with it. So. And hopefully I can just look down this and kind of center it. Hopefully. That's the only term I made up. Widely used, actually. Not perfect, but this is my first attempt, so. Okay, so got the rest of the bead rolls in this thing, and I'm, you know, kind of a newbie on the bead roller, so every one I do looks a little bit better, but I did do some sanding on them with cartridge roll, and I didn't really decide which side I wanted to make visible, but I think I'm going to make the indented side visible from the inside the engine compartment, and then this side, which I think doesn't look as good, will be visible from inside the wheel well, from this view here. Nobody's going to see that but me, but probably nobody's going to see the other side but me. But what it did do is it turned a flat sheet into a not so flat sheet, which I totally expected. It's really stiff, but when I put this bend in it, which I think I'm going to do next, that's going to get way flatter, but still, this is going to be crooked, so I'm probably going to have to do some shrinking on this to fix it up. Not really sure how to do that yet, but the nice thing about this is my boss isn't going to complain, because she doesn't give a you know what about how long this takes me. As long as I stay out of her hair. And yeah, if you run your finger across this guy, you can feel little lumps and bumps, but this one's quite a bit better. This is the second one I did. So, and there's a little bit of bumpies there from this tool that I made around the corner there. Anyway, you know, if you set this down like that, it tips over every time. But if you set it like that, it's good. I'll draw a free body diagram of that later and see why. Alright, so I got this thing bent up. I still need a little bit of fixing on it, but it's close. And I want to have overlap between this guy and this guy. See how I used to have like 3/4 of an inch or more overlap? So I want to do that, but I don't want to just butt weld it together like it was. So I think what I'm going to do, I'll take this tool here, only the highest quality for me. But basically what I did is I put that, I didn't do it in this guy yet. Let's see what I want to do, but it kind of leaves a little bit marred up, but I can clean that up. And so if I put those two together, like that, hopefully it's focusing right here. So it'll have this little deal on both sides, but that's okay, I think. I mean, I could do it like this, and maybe that looks better. Somewhat flush that way, but I think this looks pretty tidy. And then if I don't have it perfectly aligned, I can just slide it around. If it doesn't perfectly match, there'll just be a little bit of a gap inside there, which, so what? And then in some places I can use my spot welder, and other places I'll have to do a plug weld, but I think that's going to look pretty nice, and it's going to add some stiffness. Like if this piece was just like welded like that or butt welded together, it's going to be super floppy. But that crease there makes it kind of stiff, and then there's two of them on top of each other and then welded together. That's going to make it, you know, nice and rigid. So I think that's what I'm going to do. Is that the right way to do it? I don't know. Put something in the comments if I'm crazy. Okay, so spend another hour or two working on this thing. And I think I changed my plan a little bit. Let's get over here. Which, you know, I do that. So yeah, this looks kind of okay. But during my work week, I thought about this on my drive to work and home, whatever. I came to the conclusion that I needed to shrink this and this because it was like oil canning and stuff. So basically what I did is I clamped it to this metal table here and here, and then I heated this up with a, you know, torchy thing, and then I clamped it down with this guy once this was all nice and warm, and then I tapped it like so. This was clamped here and here, and then I heated this up, and of course it got bigger because thermal expansion. So this was like a big pregnant belly here. So I clamped that down, which made this pooch up and this pooch up, and I tapped that down with hammer. And I did it to both sides here. And now it's, I mean, it's not perfectly flat, but see, not perfect. But that's the process I think needs to happen. Probably a little bit more over here. Maybe clamp it to the table here and here. Heat this up, clamp it down, pooch, pooch, pooch. Because what you're trying to do is shrink the metal, but shrinking metal's hard. You hit it with a hammer, and it makes it thinner, but that makes it longer because of Poisson's ratio. So basically what you have to do is heat it up or put it in a shrinker to get it to shrink. It's easy to get metal to expand, right? You just make it thinner and it grows. Which is what happened when I did this, right? So making it shrink is harder. So the other option I had was to make this, since this guy needed to be shrunk, the other option is to stretch this so essentially this gets longer instead of this getting shorter. So, but that's a little bit harder because you got to make it stretch in this direction but not in this direction. So, and I'm not a master at it, but I know the hammer and dolly people on the internet are like, oh yeah, you just shrink it and you just stretch it. Well, it's like, no, there's no way to stretch things, right? You can only make them thinner by hitting it. So you have to know what you're doing to manipulate the metal. And I don't. I'm going to be the first to, you know, but I'm trying to learn. So the only way to learn something is to screw stuff up, right? You don't learn anything if you like do it and it comes out perfect the first time, then you didn't learn nothing. So, see? I'm like one of them golfers that hit the ball twice as many times, so I learn more. Yeah, that's the ticket. So anyway, this thing doesn't oil can anymore. I mean, it's wrong. I need to, you know, I need to bend it up here instead of here because it needs clearance to the control arm stuff. But, you know, I'm not planning on using this particular one. This is kind of practice. But I need to move these bead rolls up a little bit, and I don't know if I'm going to do this anymore. It leaves kind of a yucky. Okay. So I kind of banged, I did some heat shrinking here. I still got a little bit of kerfuffles in there, but it's fairly good, I think. Now I'm going to make a new one of these anyway. Move this up a little bit, but I think that is what I want it to look like. Minus all the little idiosyncrasies here. So I went down on my bead roller and I put like an edge on here. I didn't get it very straight, but that looks way better than using that guy. Alright, so I got these all marked up. This one has the dimensions actually on it, here and there and everywhere. this one's the same, but it's backwards. So you see this one's a mirror of this one. And then the back side I got the lines for the bead rolling for the edge. And I got it all laid out so I don't do it the wrong way. I probably still will do it the wrong way, but and then I'm going to make these. This is the engine side. I'm going to make this one here poke in, so it'll look like that ish. And I think I'm going to use a little bit smaller bead roll than this guy. This is like the biggest die I have. I'm going to use a smaller one than that. Okay, so I've used this bead roller not too many times, and usually for small stuff, but now I have to actually use it. And a couple of things I've noticed. It's really poorly designed. Let me tell you why, because it wasn't super expensive, so I think I paid 150 bucks for it or something like that. So, which is fine. I couldn't have replicated this for that much money. So when you do, this is your adjuster, and you gotta like keep twisting it around and then taking it out, putting it back in, whatever. And so, and this thing, because of, you know, gravity, there's a bolt on the back of here that you kind of constantly tighten up and loosen up, and so that's a pain in the butt. So you have to have that in your hand all the time. And then, because of gravity, this thing falls down, so you have to prop it up with something. And I just took this magnet stick and I just jam it in there like that, and that kind of acts like a lifter-upper thing. So I can just push that down and it lifts it up out of my way. Ideally it would have a spring on it, but you can't put the spring here or here because then you can't get the thing. The only place you can put the spring is on this bolt here, which is what you got to get access to the wrench to. So I'm going to have to make a little L bracket with a spring up here, so it'll pull that up every time. And then instead of a wrench, I got to weld essentially a wrench to this, so and a little ball on the end so you can rotate it. So that's number one. Number two is, since this thing's like a mile long, you're over here trying to like that, unless you're like stretch. Who's this? The guy in the comic thing, Stretch? Anyway, that guy. I had toys with little stretchy arms when I was a kid. Anyway, you gotta be that guy. So it really needs to have a forward drive. Now I've tried to like drive it forward and drive it back, and I always, it doesn't work. I always go off track when I go backwards. So what I've done, I don't know if this is cheating or genius, I don't care. I just bolted a piece of aluminum on the back of there. Not bolted, clamped. And then I just run it through the same way each time. So I just put it in here. And then I just kind of keep it like, so it's got a little bit of toe in. So it's always rubbing across that guy. And it looks pretty good. I went through there like 4 times. And every time I went through there, I started at this end and cranked it clockwise to get to this end, and then I pull it out and I start it again. Now that might be just because I'm a rookie. Fine. Better than making the parts over again. So when I did the bead roll that had the, you know, these guys, I did the same thing. I tried to go forward and then backward, and every time I went backward I screwed it up. So fixing to quit doing that until I get better at it. Maybe when I get more dexterous after 60 years. I think my dexterity is not going to get better, but so that's another thing that bites about it. So I need to put a motor on this and then just have a foot pedal and brrr and stop and then take it out, which should be easy. Just to boop, boop, boop. I'll loosen this up. And then the other thing that I was thinking is put an indicator from here to here, or even a scale, like a scale from like bolted on here to here, that you could slide up and down and set to 0. Because once you figure out where you want, with your thickness of material and where these dies are left or right, once you figure that out, you want to go to the same spot on all of them. And with this thing, all I'm doing is, you know, making sure it's aiming that way when I'm done. But there's a lot of things that could happen in between, and I don't think you're going to be a full revolution off, but it'd be kind of cooler if it had an indicator of some sort down there, whether it's a travel indicator or just a ruler. I think I'm going to add something like that. So watch for my later videos. Maybe you'll learn something. Maybe I'll learn something. Maybe we'll both learn something. Well, I can't argue with the results. It looks beautimous, but it's not fun. We'll fix that. Alright, so I got tired of playing the dancey dance with this thing, trying to get it to work properly. I mean, it works properly, it's just poorly designed. So, anyway, I made this little bracket here. Typical of me. I just found a piece of scrap metal laying in the scrap metal bin. Got a longer bolt. I think it's an M12, and then I tacked a 3/4 inch. It's really 19 millimeters, but 3/4 is 19.05 millimeters, so it's almost the same. So I just tacked that on so I don't have to drop this wrench on the floor. And then when I did that, this thing is sticking up a little bit, so this thing wouldn't turn. So I had to make a little spacer here. So now, if you want to loosen it up, you just go like that there. That kind of stays. Tighten it down. And you go like that. Loosen it up. Pops up. So. Now you can kind of do it with one hand. You don't have to fiddle futz around with prying this up. And then this thing, it's kind of like it goes to the same spot every time, so you know if it's tight or loose. It'd be cooler if that had a left-hand thread on it, but whatever. I can do that math in my head. So this is going to be way better than it was, but I still have the Stretch Armstrong. That's the guy's name, Stretch Armstrong. Problem with this guy. So I'm going to make a little thing to drive this with an electric motor. I was thinking about just putting like a steering wheel on this thing, because this would be like kind of like if you ever run a Bergmaster, like if you had this wheel you could just spin it, because the problem with this is like there's more torque when it's, you know, and then it gets way back here, so it'd be way easier if you didn't have to try and reach, you know, way back here, right, if it was always right here. So I might do that as well. See which one I like the best. Alright, I got this thing springerized. I tried hooking the drill motor up to that, that doesn't really work, so I think I'm going to put a steering wheel on there. But anyway, I'm going to use a handle for now, and I think I decided to make this one stick up and these ones stick down, and maybe that'll help the oil canning? I don't know. I guess we'll find out. Alright, so that's what it looks like. Too bad. I think it's got a little bit of warp in there, but not too much. So I'm going to go mark these on the opposite side, so I can bead roll in the opposite direction. Might look nicer and be nicer. Alright. Looks pretty good, and it didn't turn into a taco. Okay, so I got this thing bent up. It did a little bit more tweaking when I put these bends in it, so that's interesting. And then this side, I mentioned earlier, this is going to be challenging because this piece and this piece are already in there. So what I've done is I put a little slot here and a little slot here, so I can drop this thing in, slide it far enough that way, and then get this flange on the back side and then slide it back. And so I have this distance from here to here, maybe 3/4 of an inch, about the same size as this flange, where I'll have to fill up with weld there and there once it's in there. So let me show you how this goes together. It's a little finicky, but this thing goes above this flange here, and that slides back, and then this one slides inside, and it slides back like that. So as you can see, that's pretty tidy, this little line here. So I did my measurements right, that's good. So now I have a little bit of trimming to do here. I just marked it. There's maybe, this is like line to line here, and maybe a 1/16 here, and line to line here, maybe a 1/16 here. So I'm just going to take my little sander doodle and sand on that guy, and then that's, yeah, this is all. I'll put some wood screws in here to hold it together while I'm plug welding it, and I'm sure I'll do some hammer and dolly work on this. This is kind of not so flat. So once I pull those two together, it'll be beauty. Just like I drew it on the chalkboard. Not exactly, but these look nice, right? Doesn't sound stiff, but it's stiffer than this. This is pretty stiff because of the big thing there. But anyway, I think it's going to be fine. This isn't going to be a Riddler Award car anyway. It's just going to be a track / road trip / commute car.